Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to step between the ropes and enter the squared circle.
I don't know if you follow McDoJoLife on Instagram. McDoJoLife is an awesome collection of the fakest martial arts you've ever seen in your life.
Some people study karate. Some people study BJJ. And some people study fake martial arts. Now let's be honest. Fake martial arts is awesome when it's on TV. When it's not awesome is when it's in real life. And you got a guy like this charging you for lessons. You'd think that people would know better, but this has been going on for a very, very long time because no one has ever cared enough to do anything about it. Until now. Meet Rob. He gets death threats all the time for exposing these people online, whether it's from their cult-like followers or from the fake masters themselves. The tricky thing is that when people look at this type of footage, they can't help but think it's funny. They either believe there's no way this can be real, or that it's so crazy, someone is bound to put a stop to it, and they forget about it, and people get hurt. These are expert con men, and they feed you just enough truth to get away with the lies. They're a danger to the practitioner, and they must be stopped. Join us as we confront these so-called masters face to face and dare them to test the effectiveness of their methods on camera, maybe even on us.
Guys, welcome Rob from McDoJoLife, a very popular Instagram, over 400,000 followers, 60,000 subscribers on YouTube. So I guess first off, what is your background in martial arts, Rob?
So I've been training for 24 years of my life, and I get asked the resume question a lot, so I usually say it pretty quick, but
Okay.
I'm a third-degree black belt in karate, a third-degree black belt in something called McDoJo, which is a weapon system not many people have heard of. It basically just means I'm good at nunchucks, which is a fairly useless skill most of the time. I'm a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a 6-0 amateur boxer, 4-2 amateur kickboxer. I was on an international kickboxing team for 2 years called Team Full Circle, where we traveled internationally and kickboxed and did kickboxing tournaments. And I've been doing martial arts business consulting now for about 10 years. Ran a school for 4 years. I've been doing McDoJoLife now for a little over 9 years.
Gotcha. Awesome. Okay, so very well versed in the martial arts realm there. So you're not a fake martial artist.
I hope not. I mean, I think I have pretty strict rules for what I post on the page and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I try to stick to them. So hopefully I don't fall in any of those categories.
I didn't think so. So for those who, may not know or not familiar with McDoJo, can you explain what you guys are all about or what you do on your page or just, general?
For sure. I call out fakes, frauds, phonies, con men, and pedophiles in the martial arts industry. And that's pretty much, that's the mission statement. It's what I do.
Gotcha. So what was the original inspiration for the page to start out with?
McDoJos have been around for a really long time.
Yeah.
Well before I ever even started martial arts. Even the term McDoJo was around way before I started. And I started when I was 12. So It's been a long time since when I started. But I actually had the idea for the page based off a conversation that I had with a student. So at the time, I was a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, I do believe.
Okay.
It was a blue belt. Maybe I had a stripe, something like that. It's been a long time. But I was the program director and the striking coach there at the facility that I trained at.
Yeah.
And so I was at the computer. I was at the front desk doing my stuff. And then I got a phone call from the instructor and he let me know he couldn't make it in that day. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll teach the class. So I did basic stuff. I did a triangle choke, arm bar, and then transitioned to the two. And then they sparred the rest of the time. But it was a noon class. And so most of the guys who did the noon classes, they either worked for themselves or they had off on those days. So we all stood around shooting the shit once it was done. And we got on the subject of McDoJos. And once we started talking about that, there was a guy there, and it was his only a second class of martial arts ever. Okay. I mean, he did the trial class, and this was like his first official. And then everyone left except for him. He kind of pulled me back to the side, and he said, "Hey, man, I know you guys were talking about something called the McDoJos. He goes, but I don't know what that is. Could you kind of explain that to me? And so I kind of explained it to him the best I could at the time. And he just asked me a very simple question. He said, why doesn't anybody do anything about that? And so I thought about it. I went home that night and I couldn't really stop thinking about it. But the truth is, there is no regulating body to the martial arts industry.
Yeah.
Anybody can start a martial arts program, call themselves the 75th degree black belt of whatever art they decide they want to make up at the time, and then just do it.
Yeah.
So I started McDoJoLife the next day.
Gotcha. So the original, when you started it, you started on Instagram, right? The page was the first thing you did, right?
No, I started on Facebook.
Gotcha.
I was on Facebook and we got all the way up to like 170,000 followers, something like that, before Facebook removed the page completely. So we had to actually start over on Facebook. And, you know, with the content that we post, it's like, I'm always kind of treading a line because depending on how the algorithm decides to look at what you post, you might get popped for violence or, you know, all kinds of different things. Like I posted a video one time on Instagram and it was literally wrestling. It was Olympic wrestling and they popped it as sexually related content. Wow. And I was like, that's ridiculous. So I had to review it and they still said it was sexually related content. I was like, there's no way a human being actually looked at this content. No way.
No. Gotcha. So how fast did the page grow once you started on Instagram?
It took a while. Like, it's just like anything else. It takes time. You have to kind of build a brand around whatever it is that you're doing. And then once your brand becomes more recognizable, more people will just go there. They'll go there because they're looking for a specific content. Yeah. And I happen to have a really good niche and I happen to do it differently. And so it took a while, but then eventually, you know, I got some recognition by some people like Joe Rogan talking about
on the podcast.
And then, you know, other fighters started sharing my stuff or talking about it on their podcast. And so it just kind of slowly but surely has become like its own thing, which is cool. I like that.
Yeah, and that you're probably one of the only Instagram accounts that actually post stuff like that. I can't think of any other, at least well-known ones. So I know it's definitely a niche thing, like, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a page called Fake Black Belts, and
I've seen them. Yeah,
that dude, he's actually a fighter. He's a bare knuckle fighter, also an MMA fighter. He's legit. He's a legit dude. But he said that, you know, because on my page, he hit me up one day. And it was like, hey, I'd really like to start a page. I want some advice. And so we shot the shit for a while. Yeah. And then he started Fake Black Belts and he told me that it was something that really helped with like depression and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So I was like, that's cool. I thought that was neat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know. I've been following your page for probably about 4 years. I know me and my friends always share it together. I train MMA a little bit myself, and all our guys in the gym, we share you guys' stuff all the time. And I was like, I'm going to get them on the show, see if we can talk to them. But who was the first guy that followed you guys that you were like, holy shit? Like, I know you guys, the Rock follows your guys' page, Joe Rogan. It's crazy the amount of followers you guys have.
I can't remember, man. Like, I think the first person that really kind of got me was when I found out that Sean Patrick Flannery followed the page.
Okay.
And you know, I love Boondock Saints. Fucking love that movie. You know, he was I do believe he was like the young Indiana Jones. Like when I was a kid, he was like in the show Young Indiana Jones. Okay. And then I find out the dude's like a 3rd degree black belt in jiu-jitsu and he's been training like the majority of his life. I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I'm hearing that, like, I've seen where on your page you're going to do this, the McDoJoLife documentary. You already filmed that, didn't you?
We did. And so funny enough, we talked with, I can't tell you who we talked to yet because the conversation's still going. But we talked to a major production company. Oh, wow. A couple, like, it was right before Christmas, which is like the worst time to have these conversations with people. But we had the conversation with them around Christmas time. They have a movie coming out in February. So once that movie is out, then we'll probably come back to the table and have another conversation. And then I have a conversation meeting with a talent agency called the UTA. Okay. And it's one of the top 3 talent agencies in the world. And that conversation's tomorrow. So tomorrow night, so after this, I actually have a meeting with my team. And then we'll have a conversation about the conversation I'm supposed to have tomorrow. So that way we have all of our ducks in a row. But yeah, it's already filmed. Chances are good if it gets picked up, or I'm not going to say if, when it gets picked up, the company will most likely probably give us extra money for reshoots.
Yeah.
Because we only were able to raise like $20,000 to film it, which
Okay.
is nothing in terms of making a movie.
Yeah.
So if they give us like, we probably think most likely they'll give us like either 6 figures to $1 million for reshoots. And then we'll take that money and make the movie we really want to make.
Yeah.
And then if that goes well, our goal is to turn it into a series. And we want to like knock out like a whole bunch of these.
Yeah.
To kind of show like basically what I do on the page, but in real life, real time, go to these gyms, confront the people in person and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. That'd be badass. So is that what you're kind of wanting to do? Is it more of like in the documentary, you go into the different gyms and filming there? Is that pretty much what you guys were doing?
Well, in the documentary, we did all kinds of stuff. We interviewed all kinds of different martial artists from different backgrounds. Stephen Thompson's in it. We interviewed Mike Beltran. We interviewed 3 Navy SEALs. We interviewed 3 psychologists.
Gotcha.
We really made it like a real documentary where we were trying to understand the collective of why people fall for this stuff, what warnings that people should look for if they're going to join a martial arts school. And then we did a couple experiments where one, I went and got a fraud basically to come teach us a martial arts seminar. We rigged it so that way everybody there was martial artists. And he just taught us basic nonsense for like 2 hours. And then we did another experiment where I made up a style. I completely changed my name, and we went in and I taught nonsense to people to see if they'd fall for it.
Okay.
And they all did, every last one of them. So for the first hour, I taught them all a whole bunch of bullshit that doesn't work, and I know it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I told them it doesn't work. And then even after me telling them, all this stuff is pretty much made up, man. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
They wanted to argue. They were like, no, it's gotta work. Like we believe it. It worked. I was like, no, it only worked because I told you it did.
Yeah.
Like, you fell for it, and then now you're hooked. And it's like, if I could run a cult, man, I'd be probably pretty good at it.
Yeah. Well, do you think it's like a placebo effect? What do you think? Why do you think the actual students fall for it, in your opinion, so easily? Like, why do you think they actually believe in this stuff so quickly?
I think it has a lot to do with martial arts in general. Like if you go to a martial arts facility, when you first go in, you're automatically kind of ingrained with thoughts that what martial arts should be, like honor and integrity and respect and courtesy. And all of those words are already kind of ingrained when you think about martial arts.
Gotcha.
Then when you go to the facility, you're already kind of putting yourself in a back seat to the instructor.
Yeah.
Because you're automatically saying, all right, I know nothing about this, or you're better at it than I am. That's why I want to come here to learn from you. So you're kind of giving up a little bit of yourself when you walk in the door anyway.
Yeah.
And then after that, a con men do that for a living.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're a con artist, you're good at conning people. That's your job. And so most people who fall for con artists don't think they'd ever fall for con artists.
Gotcha.
That's because they don't understand. Like if I went to a mechanic, I would not sit there and I'm not a mechanic. I don't know shit about cars. So if I went to a mechanic, I wouldn't be like, oh, I know better than you. I would just
trust him. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just like, oh, he's a mechanic.
Gotcha.
But then if you went to one mechanic and he told you all of these things and your car stopped working a month later, would go to another mechanic for another opinion. You'd be like, hey man, I took it to this guy, it stopped working. And then that dude would be like, oh, he fucked your car up.
Yeah.
Like, look at these are the things that you should be doing. This is how you should be fixing your car. The problem with that analogy is that with that analogy, when we find out as martial artists that our car is broke is when we either got seriously beaten or hurt or killed.
Yeah.
And then it's too late.
Yeah.
And so it's a much more dangerous thing than that, but that's kind of the premise.
Got you. So do you think that the majority of these instructors believe in what they're doing, or do they know they're conning them? I know they know they're conning them, but do they believe that they can do this stuff most of the time?
Some do. Some do. Like it depends. Like if you look at something like something called Tenaga Dalam, which in Indonesia means inner power.
Okay.
Tenaga Dalam is like their version of like the no touch knockout chi, like I can't be hurt. But they really believe it, but that's because that's ingrained in that culture.
Yeah. And
so they learn that from a very young age. And so they kind of are taken advantage of by those con artists. But then you have people like James Heydrich. We interviewed James Heydrich for our documentary as well. Okay. He's one of the only martial arts frauds who admitted to being a fraud. He admitted it was a scam. He admitted it was a con. He's currently in a mental institution right now, only like an hour away from Fresno, California.
Okay.
But he's got locked up for molesting children.
Wow.
But at one point, he was considered the world's greatest psychic. He literally was on covers of magazines. He fooled scientists, he fooled doctors, he fooled royalty, and they all believed that he had this magical power because they couldn't explain it.
Yeah.
And so, but then later on down the road, he admitted like it's just a big fraud, like it's a con.
Gotcha.
But you know, some like him, for instance, he knew that it was a con.
Yeah.
But then you have people like George Dillman. So George Dillman's one of the OGs of no touch knockouts. He believes wholeheartedly that he can knock people out with his mind.
Yeah.
But I don't think he started that way. He started as a legitimate martial arts competitor.
Yeah.
And then I think having a lot of yes men around him all the time, boosting his ego, he probably slowly but surely started to believe it when he probably originally thought it was a lie. And then he just got told that it's true so much by people kicking his ass that eventually he believes in himself. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is so crazy. So during your time doing this, what is the craziest person or thing that you've encountered? Like instructor or anybody?
I think right now the craziest to me, it probably won't be the craziest to other people, but the craziest to me is I did a story about a guy named Edon Abelnik. And Edon Abelnik runs a martial arts system called Kala.
Okay.
And it looks like a really rough system, like it's really hardcore, hard-nosed, but the guy's a huge piece of shit.
Yeah.
And, so he shot a student doing gun disarms with live ammo.
That's smart.
In South Africa, which makes it extremely illegal. You cannot do that. So he winds up shooting. He winds up shooting a student, and then admitting to doing so. He's like, "Yep, shot him. That was my bad. That was an accident. It happens." But then he's on film doing those same disarms with loaded firearms on gun ranges again after he's already shot someone.
Wow.
Then he goes on, like, and again, all the things that I'm saying, he admits to, which is the craziest part to me.
Yeah.
He then sets up seminars all around the world. He's several seminars in different countries. And he asks everyone to pay in full up front for the seminars. 3 of those seminars, at least that I can prove, he never showed up to.
Yeah.
And then he refuses to give anyone back refunds. So that constitutes fraud.
Yeah.
So he never actually said he admits that he's not going to pay them back.
Yeah.
He himself says this.
Wow.
Then he gets kicked off of a gun range for illegal use of a firearm. He lies about his resume. And what's crazy is, you know, after shooting a student, really a lot of his training just kind of seems like abusive behavior, but people do what they pay for, ripping off people, lying about his resume, getting kicked off of gun ranges, all of which he admits to. He still has people defending him, which is the craziest part about a cult, is that they know that he's done all of these really shitty things, but they still follow him anyway. It's crazy.
That is absolutely nuts. Now, a big part of this, like, you know, when I first started following your page, it's like, you know, it's kind of silly to where it's like, haha, these guys are crazy. But I mean, it's really dangerous. People can get really hurt. And, you know, that's the problem. I didn't realize until following this that a crazy amount of these like instructors are like, they end up being pedophiles.
They do.
And what, like, is that like a normal thing? Like a big amount of them? Is that usually the case?
I mean, not everyone that I cover
is
a pedophile.
Totally.
But there is a huge amount of martial arts instructors around the world who use their position of power to take advantage of children.
Yeah.
And there are some very famous stories about this, like a story called Dojo Pizza.
Yeah.
It was a pizzeria / dojo where this guy was being kind. I put that in quotes.
Yeah.
He was being kind to local children who were impoverished. And then he was allowing them to train there and eat for free. And so like these kids who had nothing were looking up to this man because he was teaching them martial arts and teaching them. He eventually started having the parents sign over the rights to custody to him.
Oh, geez.
So I think he wound up having like 7 children that he wound up looking over that were in his actual custody. Meanwhile, he's a huge pedophile. He's sexually molesting all these kids. And the only reason he even got caught was because of the condition of the building. He would have continued to do it over and over and over again had he not been caught.
Yeah, wow. Jesus, man. Yeah, like I said, I didn't realize that. How many have there been gyms since you started doing this that had to shut down, or instructors that had to actually stop?
For sure. I'm fucking proud of it too.
Yeah, good.
There was a guy in Egypt and he was kicking the shit out of kids.
Yeah.
And then I wound up like putting out all of his personal information, the information about the organization that he was under, phone numbers to people who were in higher positions, and he was removed literally in 24 hours after we posted about it. There was a school in South Africa that we busted. Basically, the guy was giving out promotions in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He had never taken Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in his life. He had no formal rank in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And then he was lying to those kids for 25 years. Some of them didn't find out until they were 30 years old that he was lying.
My God.
But then he wound up getting shut down. A couple schools that we've called out about martial artists who were pedophiles who changed their name and tried to hide and disguise who they were. Those have gotten shut down. So yeah, man, it makes an impact, and I'm glad when I see shit like that, because that means it does more than just make people laugh.
Yeah, it's helping for sure. Well, it's safe to say you probably won't run out of content anytime soon. I mean, there's a lot of those gyms. Honestly, you're one of my favorite pages. Like I said, me and my friends, we send each other all the clips and stuff, and it's been one of my favorites for years. And I just want to say thanks though for like the community, martial artists all appreciate you guys and just like helping out. And it's definitely legit. And I just want to say good luck with the documentary. I cannot wait for that. So
appreciate it, man. Yeah, I'm excited for it to get out because we've worked on it for 3 years.
Yeah.
COVID was the worst. It like shut us down. It stopped us from filming. It made it so that way we had to like go around things or reschedule things. It sucked. So now we're just glad that we can finally get it out there.
Yeah, I bet. All right, man. Well, I'll let you go and just make sure everybody follows at McDoJoLife on Instagram, and then subscribe to at McDoJoLife on YouTube as well, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, sweet. I'll let you go, man. Thank you for your time. And like I said, appreciate the channel and the page and everything. So thank you.
Appreciate the support, man.
Yep, thank you.